Welcome to Feagan Finch, the podcast where we discuss everything football related. I'm Alex Finch.
And I'm Ryan Feagan. Let's talk football.
So this week, week 7 of our podcast, episode 7, we've been going strong for a few weeks now.
God damn, episode 7 already, Finch.
I think this topic is going to be the best topic yet. So very topical. We'll be picking our team for Euro 2021. So England's team for Euro 2021. I've even got the football right here. The Euro 2021 football, Euro 2020 football actually, but they'll be using this next year. So we'll look at players we think should have started this summer, but we'll ultimately pick a team that we think will be ready at their peaks and best suited to win the Euros next summer for our country, England. So it may differ a bit. Come on. So it may differ a little bit to the side we think might have been best placed to win the tournament this summer for England, with the obvious alteration being, I guess, with youth, with players, or some of the players, I guess, showing promise at the moment, but they probably weren't quite ready to start the summer. There's probably been a lot of players in that category that we'll talk about. And Southgate will look at a lot of these players next season as they develop and decide whether they're actually ready to start for England. So we'll also look at some outside shouts, what could be in a position to start next year and weren't at all this year. Don't just have to be youth. There's always a breakout star, I guess, which comes from nowhere. Like Dele Alli from years gone by, for example, you would never have thought the breakthrough season he had in 2015-16, I think it was. So we'll look at all different players who we think can feature for England next year, and obviously there'll be a lot of similarities between the team, which could have started this year, which will start next year, but there will be some key differences. And I'm sure me and Ryan will have our disagreements on who we would start. The formation we'll go with. We have to think about so many different things. Mm-hmm. And obviously, for once, it's a subject where me and Ryan are both supporting the same team, so there's no real proper biases. We'll just be thinking about the team we think will help England win the Euros. Maybe not the team as years gone by with the golden generation, which were the absolutely best superstar in each position. The team which will work the best as a unit, like Southgate is trying to build.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think the best way to do it is going by each position, and then we can sort of build a formation from there. What do you think?
Yeah, I like the sound of that, Finch.
And we can look at the player we think should start. If we come to the agreement, it's going to be quite hard for some positions, I think, and then talk about a player we think would be the substitute, or some positions you might have two subs, because we'll be looking at the overall squad. I think that's the best way of doing it. And I guess this is, we've got to say as well, this is the squad we'll pick if everyone's fit, because there'll obviously be a few injuries. Like this summer, the likes of Ruben Feet wouldn't have been available.
Harry Kane, maybe.
Harry Kane wouldn't have been properly fit. There's a lot of consideration. Like next year, we're saying everyone's fit, everyone's on point, and we'll pick it from there. So I think we should go right from the back, from the goalkeeper. I'll let you start us off.
Perfect. So starting keeper for me, I feel after the season he's had, I'm going to give it to Dean Henderson. I don't know how you feel about that one, Finch, but I feel like, Dean Henderson, he's had one season of Premier League experience and he has shown the world just how great a keeper can be. He's one of the reasons that's helped Sheffield United to this, impossible position really that they're in. They're fighting not only for European places, but Champions League spots. It's something that we thought would never, ever have happened, because they were favourites to go straight back down, and they have just defied the odds, and Dean Henderson's a key aspect of that. Obviously, at the minute, I took into consideration, he's on loan from Man United. I honestly don't feel like he'll be at Man United next year. Whether he stays at Sheffield United or not, I do not know.
Obviously, another loan.
The Euros, another loan, perhaps, because with the Euros coming up, Henderson will not want to play second fiddle to De Gea on the bench with the Euros and, jeopardising his spot. I really do feel like Henderson, we've only just seen the start of him. He was great in Championship last year. He's been exceptional in the Premier League this year. Still only young. He's 22, 23 years old?
23, yeah.
Yeah, the best is yet to come.
Yeah, I think, because it's quite interesting you say that, because I think for this summer, I think if we went ahead and this coronavirus didn't happen, I think Pickford would be dead certain to start, just because Henderson wasn't in the setup at all. And I think Southgate likes some continuity, and fair enough to Pickford. He was unbelievable at the World Cup, man of the match in that
One of the
game against
heroes.
Sweden.
Yeah, one of the heroes,
Unbelievable
mate.
penalty shootout winner, but his form hasn't gone to plan. If it does continue for next season, there's more opportunities for a different goalkeeper to come in and play in those friendlies or warm-up games, whatever they'll be, and to be part of that core. But I actually have a different opinion to it a little bit, because I know Henderson's stats are unbelievable. He's got 10 clean sheets in the league this year, but he's actually second to a different England keeper in terms of clean sheets, and that is Nick Pope. Nick Pope's got 11 clean sheets this year, and he's got the most clean sheets in the Premier League, which is quite an outstanding stat. And you've got to remember, Nick Pope has been part of the England setup for a good number of years now. 3 years. He was in the squad and went to Russia. He was the third choice goalkeeper or second choice goalkeeper in Russia.
I think he was
and he's
second,
part of that squad.
Yeah.
He's part of that squad, so he knows what Southgate expects. He's been part of the unit. If Southgate wants to keep that unit going and he has expectations about that, he knows. Nick Pope knows how Southgate wants to play, knows each player in the England squad. So I think he's just a bit more familiar with the team, and he's a bit older than Henderson, so he might be able to cope a bit better with the pressure of a major tournament. Because like you said, Henderson's amazing goalkeeper, the best is yet to come. I do think in the long term he will be England's keeper at some point. He'll have a good number of years in that starting spot. Because if you just look at his stats or something, he's conceded less than a goal a game, which is absolutely crazy. But you've also got to look back at his experience in tournaments and what he's played in, let's say, youth tournaments. I remember watching England 21 youth tournament, where he's in the Euros, I think it was, and he made a couple of howlers in that tournament.
Finch, I was with you in a pub watching that game. I remember it was against France, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely howlers. My mind comes back to that.
Yeah.
Maybe it was France, yeah, but then you look at Nick Pope, who's, I think, overall a very reliable goalkeeper, and he's probably a little bit more complete at the moment. He's 28, 29 years old. He's been part of the England setup, and stats back him up as well. He's got one more clean sheet than Henderson this season. They're both similar sort of teams with Burnley and Sheffield United, teams which are overachieving. Both got good defences, and at the moment, I think for the Euros next year, I'll probably just go with Pope, because I don't know how many international fixtures we'll have before then, because obviously you're rushing this season and you're rushing next season, so I don't know if they'll forfeit those international fixtures. And I think for Henderson to be the England goalkeeper, he needs to get used to that England setup, because obviously he's never even played or been in the England squad. I think he's probably going to be in the England squad. If this all didn't happen, he would have been in the next one. But
100%.
He's just not familiar with the England squad at the moment, and I think Pope would be more complete. And going by current form as well between Pope and Pickford, I'll just edge it to Pope.
That is a really good point about fixtures. My counter argument would have been, that Henderson would have got to know Southgate's setup before the Euros. But like you said before about the question is, how many international games are we going to have to prepare for this tournament next summer? So with that in mind, I do agree with you that Nick Pope will definitely have a better feel for the setup. But you could also counter the argument where, where Henderson actually goes through next year, whether he stays at Sheffield United, and they strive forward even more to when they play in Europe, perhaps, they play against these bigger European teams, he gets a taste against the more world-class players, or he goes to an even bigger team than Sheffield United. I remember seeing, even Chelsea were linked for Henderson for his services.
Yeah.
So, and Chelsea will almost certainly play Champions League football next year. So, he'll be tested a lot more than what Nick Pope will be in the Premier League. So
but I guess the point, yeah, I was going to say the point still remains that Henderson and Pope differ in that Pope has been part of the unit what Southgate's been looking at, and it seems like Southgate is trying to keep the same unit, the same team spirit going, and expectations of that going as part of a team rather than individuals. So Henderson might have a better individual season, but will he fit in the team as well as Pope fits in the team, because of Pope has the familiarity with the setup?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to predict at the minute, just because we don't really know what's going on, where players will be, injuries. We're saying no injuries at the minute. I definitely feel like these two will be 1 and 2. Either in which sort of order, I'm not sure. I'm saying Henderson number 1, pick Pope number 2. You're saying Pope number 1, Henderson number 2. So we're just completely ruling out Pickford.
I think Pickford will go to the Euros. I think could be number 3, but because of just his experience for England. But the only way I can see Pickford actually playing is unless one of these two gets injured or both of them get injured. Let's say Pope got injured, Henderson was on the bench the whole season for United. Maybe in that scenario he would play, but I can't see many scenarios where Pickford would start the tournament unless we have no international fixtures until the Euros.
Exactly.
But I do think that's what's going to get the Pope the edge. I don't think there'll be any friendlies, so there'll be no bedding in periods. Like if there was friendlies, I think Henderson I might edge towards him, but because I think it's basically almost certain they're going to cancel out all the international friendlies because there's not going to be time. So I think that's the reason I'm thinking Pope will get it because he's just been part of that England setup. And it does. Southgate has spent so much time with certain England goalkeepers, certain England team members to get them into that unit as he has done. Where he's left out some major. That's why he left out Joe Hart at the very start. He didn't think he'd suit the style of play and how the unit is. He wanted to because he knew in the long term he's not going to be part of that unit. I guess. Of his team, and he's left out some players like he never brought back Milner. Vardy accepted his retirement, never asked him to come back because he wanted to keep the same unit together. Heaton. So there's a number of players like that, which I think he'll allow. In my opinion, what will happen is what I think, from my perspective, he'll bring Henderson to the tournament to give him the experience, embed him in the team because that's a great time, a month, 6 weeks, how long they're together for the tournament. That'll allow him to embed in the team, gain familiarity. And then after that tournament, he'll be in a position where he can be England's starting goalkeeper.
Yeah, that's actually a cracking shout, Finch. Okay, you've won me over. You've won me over with Nick Pope.
But if we're talking the World Cup next year, then I'm going with Henderson. But just because of what I've said and what's going on in the world at the moment.
Any other factor than the main factor was that got me was you saying about experience. In the England setup, he doesn't really know it. I've never played a game, senior level. Nick Pope's played 15, 20 games now for England, something like that. Quite a few.
Yeah,
you got to give it to the more experienced keeper. And like you say, even in the Premier League, Pope's still doing bits week in, week out.
Well, he's got the most clean sheets in the whole league.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's no denying you can't. It's hard to argue with that, really.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think we've got our goalkeepers there. So we've got Pope number 1, Henderson number 2, Pickford number 3. You always bring 3 goalkeepers, don't you? So
yeah,
I don't think there's no other goalkeepers in the running. Heating, I don't think will be at heart. Definitely not.
So up next, where do you want to go, left or right?
I think right back's going to be the easiest one. So I think we should get that out of the way. I think it's obvious. It's going to be. We're blessed with right backs actually in England. There could be a number of, I think there could be 5 right backs, which would start for most other countries. But there's a generational talent in there, and Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Is it 2? I don't really take 2 right backs. Maybe. Well, I have a shout for a third. Also, only because he can play centre back, just like in the last World Cup, which is Kyle Walker.
Yeah, I think that's a really good shout.
Yeah, his experience would bring levels to the team. He'd be great to learn from for my second option, which is Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, actually, Wan-Bissaka's got the second most tackles in the league this year. The thing about Wan-Bissaka is where he offers something completely different to Trent, whereas I guess with Trent's is becoming an all-round amazing generational right back, probably the best right back since Dani Alves with the amount of assists he's getting. It's unbelievable crossing. 12 assists a season, that's unheard of for a right back. Even Dani Alves he got a fair number of assists, but never the amount Trent's getting every year. And I don't think any right back in the Premier League's ever got these numbers. So I think
and Trent's only just starting as well. He's just beginning.
Trent will be England's stalwart at right back for years to come. So he'll definitely be. It's just the other right back, which is there to substitute him and push him. I guess, like I said, Walker would be a really good shout because he has the experience of other tournaments. Maybe didn't perform best the last tournament because he was out of position in centre back, but
Yeah,
overall as a right back, he's been there, won leagues, he's been in the tournament. So,
yeah,
but
you're
the other option I would go for, Wan-Bissaka's there young, and he's an amazing tackler, but I think you need someone with experience to push Trent. So I would
yeah.
either go with uh, Trippier or Walker. I think Trippier's delivery is unbelievable as well, and he'd be very good as a set piece taker to bring on, I guess, because the set piece is unbelievable. Obviously, you think of a Croatia free kick, absolutely unreal, and he
Oh,
has been very good at Atletico Madrid this season. To start for
yeah,
that team in defence, that says something because they're one of the best defensive teams in Europe.
yeah. That's a cracker track. She's Kieran Trippier, fantastic. Probably a bit of a forgotten player these days. Playing out in sunny Spain, but like you say, still doing bits for Simeone's side, and that's no easy feat. Making their start 11 and being one of their players of the season.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. So I think, in my opinion, the substitute spot is between Trippier and Walker. Although I think it's also worth mentioning, this is how blessed we are with right backs. Matthew James will develop next year into a really good right back. But obviously, with all
Reece
these right
James.
backs available, Reece James, so I don't know where Matthew came from, Reece James, will, with all these players with different names, yeah. But yeah, Reece James,
Yeah,
he'll develop into a really good right. He's developed this season to a cracking right back, but next season I think he'll develop even more. It's just unlucky. Some of his attributes are quite similar to Trent in being a very
yeah.
good cross of the ball, running down the wing, providing those overlaying runs to the winger. So I
Mm.
don't think he offers much different to Trent, and Trent obviously is a generational talent. He does everything a little bit better. So I think that goes against, and again, what we said we're looking at someone who's experienced to back up Trent rather than someone who's a similar age.
How mad is it that we've got? We used to have Gary Neville. He had no real competition at right back. Kyle Walker had no real competition at right back, and now we've got three young, incredible right backs all at once.
Well, I think before Kyle Walker as well, we had Glenn Johnson, who didn't really have much competition before
No,
in the 2014 World Cup, let's say,
but we never
2012
really have.
Euros.
Yeah, we never have. An array of talent in defence like we have now. Other
Mm,
than like I'm about fullbacks, well
yeah.
even left back really.
So I think, what do you reckon we should go as the substitute defender, Trippier or Walker?
I'm good. It's a tough one really because
Will Walker
it's a
be starting
really
for Man
tough
City
one.
next season as well? Will Cancelo come on a bit more for them? They spent a big money on him.
Because I was just thinking about how much Trippier would have learned under Simeone being the defensive manager that he is. It might be worth taking someone like him who's had that experience, who's done it in another league, which Walker hasn't.
Yeah, I think we should go Trippier then.
Yeah, Kieran Trippier.
Let's go Trippier. And he was probably the unsung hero in our World
Yeah,
Cup 2018. I think
without a doubt.
Southgate maybe will have that favouritism. Because I guess when going through this, we're not just picking our team, we're picking a team we think Southgate will play as well.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
next up, left back, I think we should go for, then go into the centre backs.
Ooh,
There's one main
left back.
candidate here.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, 100%. Ben Chilwell.
Yep.
Ben, absolutely fantastic wing back. He can do it all. Finch, Ben Chilwell. He can attack, defend, shoot, tackle. He's great at set pieces. He's got it all in his locker. Obviously not as great as Trent, but and he's only a year or two older
I
than
think it's
Trent.
like 23, so maybe 3 years older.
Yeah, he started the season off incredibly. Went off the boil a little bit after Christmas. Ever since he's been linked with a big money move to Chelsea, but whether that's got into his head or not, I'm not too sure. Whether he'll be at Leicester next year, again, I'm not too sure. But I feel like his starting role in the England setup is pretty much nailed on. Definitely was going to be for this Euros. I mean, competition wise, the only really other I've got two down. If could have a bit of a breakthrough year. I'm not sure if you wanna
Yeah, I've got
say
two.
one.
I've got a couple as well. I think it's worth going through what would have happened this year first. I think, like you said, probably the real standout for this year in terms of Euro 2020 if it went ahead, because Ashley Young started left back in the World Cup and he's out of the picture. Southgate's
Yeah.
looking at something different at the moment. He's still doing well, Ashley Young, went to Inter Milan and is doing well over there. And
Mm.
obviously suited Southgate's style of play for with five at the back in 2018. Luke Shaw is, I don't know what's happened to Luke Shaw. It's gone completely off the rails. There's so much
Yeah.
talent back in 2014, went to the 2014 World Cup, and there's so much talent. 2013, 2014 was his breakthrough season at Southampton. Everyone thought he'd be England's left back for years to come, but it just hasn't happened. He did look like he was going to push on at one point, then got that huge injury against PSV in the Champions League, and has never really
Yeah.
come back from that. Danny Rose,
No.
he started at left back for England in the past, had a really good, I think it was Euro 2016, played really well for England, but he's gone off the boil as well due to injuries. And then that sort of leaves it in terms of the chance for Euro 2020. So then Chilwell would be that
Yeah.
left back. But I think, like you said, next year there's a few players who could have a breakthrough season. I think one of them is Saka from Arsenal.
Yeah. That's
It's been
one of my shouts.
it's
Absolutely
been
fantastic player.
yeah, it's been great for Arsenal this year in his breakthrough season. And I thought he was going to only play as a winger, but he's
Yeah.
actually played a lot of the time either wing back or left back, and he's played really well in that position. And it looks like he'll continue for Arsenal in that position
Hmm.
for at least next season. So if he continues with good form and builds on what he's done this season, there's no reason why he can't challenge Chilwell for that position. Because I do think it is a little bit open still, that position at left back. It's not like right back where Trent's almost definitely got it. I can't see
No.
any other scenario. If Trent's fit, he's going to start.
No, definitely not Finch. And just like you said about Saka, you've also got another one for another big team. It's Brandon Williams for Man United.
Hmm.
I feel like I remember seeing him first in the Europa League, and I thought, man, he is quick. He has got some lightning speed. I'm not sure if it was a debut or not, but he definitely wasn't playing like it was a debut. He had so much confidence going out there, taking shots on, going in for these strong challenges. It was like he's been doing it the last 5 years, Finch. It was great to watch, and the way that Luke Shaw's been playing, and the way that Brandon Williams has been playing too, I can't see Luke Shaw getting back to being that starting spot now. Sort of Williams has taken over, and
Yeah,
with
I
all
completely agree.
going on next season, if Man United are a massive club, that's going to get Southgate's attention. If this young, 18-year-old, 19-year-old Brandon Williams has taken the starting left back spot for Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world, it's going to get heads turning.
Yeah, and there's one more outside shout as well, which could sneak into the squad. And his very experience through England's youth levels, played 12 times for England 21s, is actually played most of his young career as a winger. And a bit like Saka, he probably thought he's going to be playing as a winger when he went to, whilst he was at a big club. But he was also in North London, but this time with Tottenham, and that's Ryan Sessegnon. He's only 20 years old and has
Yeah.
actually played most of his football since Mourinho came in at left back and has done actually quite well. It's almost been revitalised in coming into left back since Mourinho came in, because under Pochettino he didn't get many opportunities because of the amount of good wingers Tottenham have, and he's sort of becoming more of a left back under Mourinho, and that seems like the opportunity for him to get in the team, or the only real opportunity to get in the team on the left hand side is in that position. So I can see him starting more next season. Obviously, Ben Davies is getting on, and I think Ben Davies is a very good player, but I think there's room for Sessegnon to overtake him if he performs well enough. I think Mourinho will trust him, and because Sessegnon's come through the England setup, under 16, under 17, under 19, under 21, getting a number of
Mm.
appearances, I think that he has that to his advantage, because I think through some of that England setup, Southgate was his manager at one point, I think. So I do think he's an outside shout at the moment, but I do think going by what's happening at the moment, let's say if current form continues, I think, and like we said before, I think a major consideration is how many international fixtures will there be to embed these kind of players. I think with that in mind, I would go with Chilwell still as the starting spot.
Yeah, I completely agree, Finch. Obviously, we can't see into the future. We can give you a good example of what's to come just from how they've performed this year. I do believe, like Finch said, with Saka and like I said with Brandon Williams, they're going to have some big breakthrough seasons next year. But what's not to say that Chilwell doesn't improve his game at say Chelsea, or maybe he goes to Spurs or somewhere like that. And has an even better season. We don't know, but from what's been going on this year, 100%, I'm going with Chilwell, just like you.
Yeah, and I don't think we can actually agree upon a substitute for him because I think it's dependent on who has that breakthrough season. You can't predict that at the
Yeah,
moment. And
no,
the only
you
other
can't.
player I think you could put this in, put him in even, not put it in, put him in for the reason he can play left back, and this is moving to the centre backs, is Tyrone Mings. Because
Yeah,
if you're looking at limiting the number of players you want in your squad from in defence, because obviously defenders take up a number of spots in the squad, and you only have a limited number of spots. If you want to limit that, you could choose a player like Mings who can play centre back and left back, because at Ipswich, that was his main position, left back, and
yeah,
he was unbelievable left back for Ipswich. And I still do think he probably was better at left back than he was at centre back. Looking at how he's performing at the moment, he's performing very well, but he was an absolute beast at left back. It was quite
mm,
similar in some ways to what Alphonso Davies is doing at Bayern. He's very tall, he's very speedy, he's very strong. There's not many players you can get round him because if you do beat him once, he'll come back with speed and get back at you. He's very good down the wing because he's very fast, he's very physical. He's even got a very good cross. Not many people realise how good a cross Tyrone Mings has got. He assisted a number of goals for Ipswich in the championship, and
yeah,
he was our right back actually when we got to play a final. So it was a good period for Ipswich as well. I know this is the championship, but he was still a very good player at that point, and he's developed since has become a centre back, and is been very good for Aston Villa this year. Been their stalwart, and if they will stay up, Tyrone Mings will be a major reason for that. I think that's why
yeah,
Southgate's recognised that. He has actually been part of the England squad the last few fixture rounds and started a few games. So I do think he'll have a shout of getting in there. And I think to his advantage, he can play left back, which may help him get in the squad. Obviously, he's not going to start in our team, but he might get on the bench for the reason, or in the squad for the reason he can play two positions.
yeah. That's a really good shout. Another reason why I had Mings down in my notes that he can also play left back as well as centre back. And like you say, he's been absolutely phenomenal this season
Mm.
at centre back. And like you said again, at Ipswich, he was absolutely phenomenal at left back for Town, which is
Yeah,
why Bournemouth bought him. And had that really bad setback, break his leg in what his second or first game for Bournemouth.
yeah,
Absolutely
and
heartbreaking for him.
yeah,
But
I do think,
he's
yeah,
come back stronger. He's come back stronger. Finch. He's really
yeah,
revitalised his career at Villa. He's doing amazing at the minute. I don't if they do go down, I don't think Mings will stay down. I think Mings will stay in the Premier League.
yeah, and I do think as well that Southgate wants mentally strong players, and Tyrone Mings is one of the most mentally strong players there is out there in the Premier League or in world football to come back from the injury he had at Bournemouth,
Yeah,
and then he didn't just come back from it; he got injured again and had another nasty injury, which put him out for nearly a year. And then he went on loan to Aston Villa and rebuilt his career, and has
yeah,
been a stalwart for them in their journey to the Premier League and their season so far. I do think because of his mental strength, that gives him a major advantage because he is such an intelligent guy as well. Because aside from football, during his time out of the game whilst he was injured, he was not only trying to rebuild his fitness, he was starting a business about redevelopment of properties and that kind of thing. He's very intelligent in what he does, and
yeah,
I think that's what builds his mental strength in terms of his overall intelligence. He knows what he needs to do. Like even at Ipswich, I remember he was the one player which didn't really have a summer holiday. He went to this high intensity training camp in America one summer at Ipswich, I think maybe just before his second season, to build up his strength. And other players were having the holidays in Marbella and all these kind of countries. And he was out there with his commitment, wanting to be better,
yeah,
not taking these silly holidays. He was going to a high intensity training camp to do that. And I think his mental strength will be a major factor in terms of maybe him getting in the squad, because I do think although we're saying maybe an outside shout like Saka, like Williams, like Sessegnon could get in, it's a big ask to have a really young player come in that squad and be a deputy for Chilwell, because Chilwell's quite young himself. I mean that's the reason we chose Trippier to be Trent's deputy, because you want a player with fair experience. I think Mings would have fair experience, but still, it's still not too old. So I think
Well,
for that
he's
reason,
only 27 years old. He's entering probably his peak years.
hmm,
I think Mings is only going to get better with like you say, with a couple of years that he lost out on his career early on, being 23, 22. years old. I think he's going to make up for him right now.
Yeah, I think moving to the centre backs, then I'd probably just put Mings in there as the deputy left back. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah. So for the centre backs, I think I can start us off if you want.
Go for it.
And I think I'll start us off with the obvious candidate, and that's Harry Maguire.
Mate, yeah, 100%. He's number one on my list for a reason. He's been one of the best centre backs in the Premier League. I'm not saying the best, one of the best centre backs in the league. For quite a while now, for definitely a couple of years. I remember watching him. It was one game. It was actually the whole City. He was playing against Chelsea. I remember seeing him on the ball, and he just ran the show from the back. You know, he would reach out into midfield. You know, he can dribble, he can pass. He's great at heading the ball. Maguire can really do it all. Obviously, I don't feel like he's justified his big price tag. You know, where he went to Man United this summer for 80 million. He definitely hasn't justified that, but he's definitely a very, very, very good centre back, and he essentially proved that last World Cup.
But he was there at the most important moments. He got that headed goal against Sweden, we all remember, coming through.
Yeah.
And there's a famous story about that. Actually, this is probably why you didn't want to put Pickford in the team, because Maguire was unbelievable in that game. Ryan had some money on Maguire getting man of the match. He thought he was dead certain. And Pickford pulls these saves left, right, and centre. He's world-class saves. Pickford's never had a better game in his life, and he never will.
Yeah.
And Pickford obviously gets the man of the match, and Ryan doesn't get his money.
No, 40-1 odds, tenner on it, 400 quid I would have won. And Maguire just got pipped at the last hurdle by Jordan bloody Pickford.
Yeah, going back to Maguire, I think he is the stalwart and the need at centre back. He is a huge player and suits Southgate's playing style. He's a passing centre back, and he's almost that Van Dijk for England, I think, because of that. That's why United bought him, because they wanted that key centre back, that leader. Yeah. And I think although they have to pay over the odds for him, and it's hard for him maybe to justify that fee, he's probably the best player they could have bought that at that moment in terms of what they wanted. And I think for England, he'll be in his prime at that point, 28. He's got to start. It's just the only question is who's going to start next to him.
Well, you say about being the Van Dijk for England. Who plays next to Van Dijk? It's Joe Gomez. Joe Gomez. I really feel like Joe Gomez and Maguire would just be such a solid setup for Southgate's team. I think it'd be the perfect setup for both. Maguire's not got the most pace. I think Gomez's got a lot of pace. You know, Gomez can really learn. Gomez is only 23 years old still, and he's been. You know, Gomez has been around for so long. It's easy to forget that he is still so young and still learning.
Well, he's been part of the best defensive unit for an English team over the last 2 years in Liverpool.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So,
and he is the stalwart next to Van Dijk. He's going to be starting next to Van Dijk for years to come. And there's no better players to learn from than Van Dijk, who's potentially the best centre back in the Premier League at the moment. Well, he's probably the best centre back in the Premier League, potentially the world at the moment. So he's learning from the best, starting every week for a club which is going to win the league. And Liverpool will be challenging for the league next year, and I think he'll be starting in every game. So I think he's got to go there, and I think the only argument really actually is who's going to be on the bench, because obviously we have Mings, left back, who can play centre back. There's Stones, but he's had a really poor season, and he needs to really come back next year.
Very lackluster. I've in my notes, I'm not sure if you can call me biased here, but I've gone for Tomori as a shout as backup for Gomez or Maguire.
Yeah, I think Tomori is a very good shout, and I think he will develop over the next year. I think Chelsea have got to buy really a centre back to go alongside him. Like we was talking about Gomez being alongside Van Dijk and learning off him. Tomori needs a really high class centre back, a leader to learn off at Chelsea. Whereas sort of Gomez has at the moment, Tomori's sort of trying to learn by himself at the moment. Well, next to the other Chelsea centre backs like Christensen, who also trying to learn by himself almost, because he doesn't have someone next to him to learn off and help him with. Usually with centre backs, it seems you have one older one and one a bit younger one, so they can teach basically each other how to play, how to deal with certain situations, and obviously one's usually pacier than the other. That's the kind of sort of standard setup. But obviously in a perfect situation you have two people in their perfect prime. But it seems like Tomori needs someone next to him to to really learn off and build upon next season. If Chelsea do get Koulibaly, there's no better player for Tomori to learn off, and he could become an
That's
England
exactly
starter for
that.
years to come. It could be one when Maguire eventually retires. It could be Gomez and Tomori.
They centre back pairing for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I do think as well, because we usually take at least 2 extra centre backs. I think you'd have to have a experienced centre back to back up them 2 as well. So maybe someone like Lewis Dunk, who has played a number of Premier League games and is probably quite reliable.
Yeah, Dunk's a good. Yeah, I like that shout for Lewis Dunk. He's,
Yeah,
he probably goes under the radar quite a bit, Lewis Dunk. But he cracking player for Brighton. One of the reasons Brighton have been in the Premier League for the last 3 years, really.
Yeah, and he has played for England at least once and has been in the squad a number of times, so he's used to the setup. So I do think he'll be part of that squad, I think. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to, obviously he was very close to going to Leicester last year, then he pulled out because of the fee. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to a different team in the summer. Although saying that now, I think clubs will be obviously more hesitant to pay big fees now. But yeah, I do think we've got a good back four, good back 5 there, including the goalkeeper.
I like that setup, mate.
And I do think it's one thing's worth mentioning: outside shot for potential spot in the squad, not starting but in the squad at centre back, is Jonathan Panzo, the player who went for the Chelsea academy and then went to Monaco very early on in his career and was part of that famous under-17 England side which won the World Cup. And he seems like he's ready for a real breakthrough year. He's started a couple of games in Monaco this year, but went on loan to a Belgian club in the Belgian top division and started over 20 games for them this year. And I do think he'd have a breakthrough. If he does play for Monaco next year, every game plays in the Champions League and so on, he could have a claim to get into England's squad because he's played, like the others we talked about, the young and boys. He's played at every level for England. So apart from the senior team, so I do think he could have an outside shout, but it's a very much outside shout.
Yeah, I like that shout, Finch. That's a bright one for the future. That one.
Yeah, and fact of the day, the Belgian club he's playing at the moment is the same Belgian club Feagan's and Eden's brothers playing at, Kylian Hazard.
Oh wow!
Same club.
Fun little fact for the day, Finch. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So this is where it's going to get hard, isn't it? We're going to have to go into midfield.
Yeah, this is where it's going to get hard.
But I think one position's dead certain. I think we should go for that at the beginning. I do think we're going to, whatever formation we're going with, we're going to have to have a defensive midfielder in there.
Yeah.
In my head, what have you gone for? What formation have you gone for?
In my mind, I've gone for a 4-3-3.
I've gone very, very similar, but mine's 4-2-1-3.
4-2. Oh, but that's basically like mine then. That's basically
I'm just thinking what one more. I've just gone one more midfielder, a little bit more leeway in terms of how much he can attack.
Pretty much same as mine. Yeah.
So 4-2-1-3, 4-3-3, basically the same thing. I think we know where it's going at the moment, and I think if you're happy to go through the obvious choice in midfield, who's going to be there, you can start us off if you want.
Yeah, I'll start off, obviously, without a doubt, the man who's going to be there. I never thought I'd be saying this sort of 3 years ago, but it's Jordan Henderson. You know, the guy who was labelled as pretty much a joke player. You know, the punchline of every football joke, but
his run, wasn't it? Everyone made fun of his run.
2018 World Cup. Everyone was like, "Whoa, this guy can really play ball. He is." You know, he really transformed himself as a player. He probably listened to a lot of the criticism he got, and he's just got better and better every single season. You know, he's really filled in what, you know, that void for Liverpool that Gerrard left. You know, they didn't really have a great captain since Gerrard. No, obviously you got Van Dijk who fills in as captain when Henderson isn't fit, but Henderson, the last couple of seasons for sure, has proved himself to be worthy of that armband for Liverpool and also worthy of, being one of the best midfielders. Again, I can't understand, being one of the best midfielders in the league, if not the world.
Yeah, that's
Winning
a
the
fair
Champions
statement, I
League,
think.
getting to back-to-back Champions League finals. He's going to win the Premier League at some point. It has to be Henderson at the heart of that midfield.
Yeah, and like you, I was one of his big doubters back in the day. It's proved me wrong. I think 2014 World Cup, I was not really the biggest fan of Henderson. Even and going on, I still didn't really rate him too much. I guess maybe he tried to be a bit too much like Gerrard, and he's not that type of player. And as years gone by, he's owned his own position, owned his type of play. And there's no player really like him at the moment in terms of what he does and what Klopp's allowed him to do. Since Fabinho's come in, I think, is get forward a little bit more. So he's become a little bit more box to box, I guess. But he's just a workaholic. He runs around the pitch 24/7, and he does a great job at that. And one thing which is really underrated is his first time passing. His passing is really good, and he's turned into a great player. There's no coincidence that he's been part of a Liverpool team and been the captain of the team, which won the Champions League, and is going to go win the league this year. And they would have won the league any other year if Man City weren't around last year. The amount of points they tallied up. There's no coincidence that he's been a stalwart in central midfield for that team, and has been unbelievable in that position. And for England, even 2018 World Cup, he was unbelievable. One of our best players in that position, and it does show whenever I watch England and I see Declan Rice come in. Very good young player, but there's a massive gap in between Rice and Henderson.
100%.
And I think Henderson is a lot of people's favourite pick for the PFA Player of the Year this year.
Yeah, he is. He is, and honestly, I think he is going to win it. He is going to win it. And again, I can't be fair, but he probably deserves it.
Yeah, I do. It's hard to pick a player to substitute him because he's so unique in terms of what he is. I don't think Declan Rice is a good player, but I don't think he's very good on his own. I think he needs someone next to him a bit more.
Yeah,
and I think he'll develop a bit more as they go on. But I do think, in my personal opinion, he's a little bit very good player, but a little bit overrated just because he's English. And the only other player I can think who's coming through who could do a job almost, if you want to call it that, in that kind of position is Calvin Phillips from Leeds, because I think Leeds will, if all goes well with the Championship and Premier League in terms of promotion and relegation, he could be a key player for Leeds next year in the Premier League, and he's a very, very good player. He's stormed the Championship, is 24 years old, is coming to a very good peak in his career. Has adopted the position where he is that deep-lying play. Leeds fans call him their Pirlo, almost a Yorkshire Pirlo, because the role he plays is transformed a bit more from a box-to-box player to that defensive player. I think Bielsa was a key reason for that. I do think he could form that substitute player, because I do think he's got more attributes than Rice at the moment. But obviously that depends on how he plays in the Premier League.
Yeah, that's a really good shout for Calvin Phillips Finch. He's a great talent to watch. Phillips, he's absolutely fantastic player, and like I say, hopefully, if Leeds do end up finally going up, he's someone who can have a breakthrough season, make it into the squad. Have to wait and see what next season holds for him. But are we saying Calvin Phillips for substitute?
I'm happy for that. In my personal opinion, I think he was even going to get in the squad. I think it was confirmed by BBC that he was basically in the squad for the February or March, whatever the next round of England fixtures would have been if the coronavirus didn't go ahead. So that shows he was in Southgate's thinking. So I'm happy to put him there. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think now it's going to become quite difficult. And shall I have a go at the next player? Because I think
have a go at who's going to play near him.
In my opinion, there's two positions in midfield which are up for grabs, and I think both positions have two players going for each one. So if we're playing my system where we have 4-2-1-3, you have a player next to Henderson. I think there's two players going for the position next to Henderson.
I think we have a quite similar thinking here.
Oxlade-Chamberlain and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And I do think, in my opinion, if the Euros happened this year, it would have definitely been Oxlade-Chamberlain, because obviously his been unbelievable this year for Liverpool. He's been playing next to Henderson, so it makes complete sense for him. In a play, Ruben Loftus-Cheek maybe probably wouldn't even got in the squad because he's been injured. So I think, yeah, that is the obvious shout on what would have happened this year. But it's going to be quite difficult because both players have had their injuries in the past, and I actually really like Loftus-Cheek as a player. And I think last year I was watching Chelsea quite a bit, especially in the Europa League run. And Loftus-Cheek was absolutely unbelievable in terms of his box-to-box play and his strength, his conditioning, and how good he is in his box-to-box play. And I think that's why I'd put him in the position next to Henderson, because he can sit back and go forward and back and forth. And there's not many players in world football at the moment who are box-to-box midfielders. Midfielders since Lampard and Gerrard have tended to be specialised in either like a cam, defensive midfielder, or that kind of role. They haven't been box-to-box. Those days of Lampard and Gerrard seem to have gone away a bit. So I do think, in my personal opinion, if both players are playing next year to the standard they've been playing over the last, let's say, 2 years, and with the development we've been seeing, if Loftus-Cheek regains the form he had last year, I think I would go with Loftus-Cheek, because I think he's a great player, and if he improves even more, he can become one of England's best players, because his talent is unrivaled. And I think it's a bit harsh on Oxlade-Chamberlain, because he's been part of that England setup. He has also been next to Henderson the whole season, so they have got good chemistry. But Loftus-Cheek, on the other hand, has been part of the England setup in the 2018 World Cup. Oxlade-Chamberlain was injured, so there's swings and roundabouts there. And I don't know about you, I think you'll agree with me because you're a Chelsea supporter and you're a big fan of Ruben. But I think
he was in my starting 11. He was in my starting 11. Finch, I have nothing more really to say about Loftus-Cheek. He is a generational talent come from a fantastic Chelsea youth academy, one that, he's been starting for Chelsea since 2015, 5 years ago. And you think he's still pretty young now, but to break it into that that great Chelsea midfield that we had before, he's been very unlucky with his injuries, not getting the game time he deserved under certain managers. He started to show it under Sarri. Got really unfortunate in that stupid charity game. Such an unfortunate injury to get. And now, for a fact that Frank Lampard will give this man the opportunity he deserves. He will get that starting spot in midfield over who? I'm not too sure. But Frank will definitely give it to him, 100%.
And there's no better, like when I was talking about before, in terms of how he plays a box-to-box midfield, there's no one better suited to learn from than Lampard for that role.
Exactly.
And Chelsea are crying out for that kind of player as well. That's why I do think Kante will still be there. Barkley will probably miss out a lot more often. Jorginho might play less, but I think it'll be Kante and Loftus-Cheek the main midfielders. Then you might even have Gilmour as the cam.
Yeah,
Chelsea have a very good midfield for years to come. But yeah, we're not talking about Chelsea. We can talk about Chelsea for hours. I know you can. So, and I can, because their future is very bright. So, I think going back to England, I think we're actually in complete agreement for one of the positions which is probably most contentious.
Yeah, the only outside shout I would give, I really like watching this player play. I'm going to say Harry Winks for that
good shout.
Start to play next to Henderson. I really like the way Winks plays. I think Winks is another one of them who can play box to box. I think he may even have. I honestly think he's even got a better passing range than what Loftus-Cheek has. He plays the ball. He plays with the ball better than what Oxlade-Chamberlain does. But I still would play Loftus-Cheek over him. I still would play Oxlade-Chamberlain over him. I feel like Harry Winks definitely deserves a shout, 100%.
Yeah, and I think Harry Winks is the closest English player we've had to Carrick since Carrick retired. He's very similar to Carrick, and he dictates play from the beginning. But I guess Henderson does that as well. So I think the partnership with Loftus-Cheek and Henderson would be the best one out there, because I think they complement each other so much.
It'd be perfect. Yeah.
Now we'll go on to the other midfield position, and this is going to be quite hard, because I think there's a few players. We're looking at a player who can have a license to attack and feed our front three. And as in my head, there's three main players in this picture, and there's a couple of outside shouts, but there's three main players in the picture. I think you should, because I did the last one, I think you can go ahead and start us off with this.
Well, I'll start off here with one of the main shouts. I'm going to say it right now. It's James Maddison. He's been for the last 2 seasons now. He's been one of the players of the year in the Premier League. He's to do it for a great team like Leicester have become. They've got a lot of talent in that team, and he's to be the standout player in that setup for 2 years run. You've got to be some sort of special player. He can do it all. He's got fantastic set pieces, incredible long shots. His passing range is unbelievable. And when you've got a front three like the front three we're going to have, it's just goals for days when you include this man behind it, in that setup. And, playing in front of Loftus-Cheek and Henderson, you're looking at a fantastic midfield.
Yeah, I completely agree. Absolutely amazing player. And it pains me to say it because he was phenomenal at Norwich. And obviously, I spoil it, which Norwich are massive rivals. We absolutely, I hate to use the word, but hate. I said it twice there, but we almost hate him. But when I say a Norwich player is good, I really mean it. And he's probably the best Norwich player I've seen in recent times. When he was there, went to Leicester, he's absolutely amazing. The major advantage he has is he's a set piece taker. It's unbelievable at set pieces. And I think if the Euros were this year, in my opinion, he would be my preferred person to go in that role. I do think this could be one of the positions which is definitely open for grabs, but could change in terms of who would have played this year because who will play next year. And I think the major thing, the major dependency there is how much game time Foden will get next year, because everyone's talking about David Silva is leaving Man City. This is going to leave an opening for Foden to play every game. He's shown his class when he plays. He even got the man of the match in the League Cup final this year, and that shows something. When you get the man of the match in the League Cup final against a good Aston Villa side, that shows when he plays, he's very good. He's probably England's best player at the Under-21 tournament last year. Scored a phenomenal goal. It just depends with Foden how much game time he gets. He should get more with Silva becoming injured, and it seems like Man City won't sign anyone to replace him. And Pep Guardiola it seems like he hypes up the most, yet is the reason he's not been in the England squad because he hasn't played him. So it's got a conflict there, but I think it's between Foden and Maddison, and a lot of it depends on how Foden develops over the next year. But in my opinion, I would go with, if it was today, if the Euros was this year, I'll go with Maddison, and Maddison's the safer bet at the moment.
Yeah, I'd go Maddison. I do agree that Foden is an exceptional talent. I think he's absolutely fantastic. I think he will go on to be a great player. But I wouldn't have him as our sub for this role, Finch. I think there's two players, above Foden.
But you got to remember, the thing is, Foden, if he say, look at what Sancho's done over the course of, I'm sure we'll talk about it in the course of the last couple of seasons in terms of his development when he's playing. Foden got the golden ball at that under-17 World Cup, and you had Sancho, you had Hudson-Odoi, you had all these players. Yet it was Foden picked as the best player at the tournament, and Foden is constantly picked as the best player throughout these youth age groups. So I think if he's given a role for Man City, and say if Man City win the league, I think he'll definitely be in there. It's just dependent on if he gets that. I think it's all dependent on if he gets that role, because Man City will be winning something next year.
Oh, yeah, 100%. If he gets that role, yeah, that's a big if. Man City could go out and break the bank and sign, Kai Havertz to play that role.
Yeah, I would go against everything. Yeah, you'd hope not, because that would go against everything Guardiola's been saying. But if
exactly, so when again, will Guardiola be there next year?
Yeah, because even Guardiola said some ridiculous statements like Foden's the best talent he's ever seen outside of Messi.
Exactly, but you got to think, how many times has Guardiola played Foden?
Yeah,
he says all this stuff, but how many times has he actually played him?
Well,
I do agree with what he's saying. He is a fantastic player, but at this moment in time, I'm not saying. I know we're speaking hypothetically about whether next season we will get these breakout stars, and I do believe Foden will be one, no doubt. But you've also got to consider two other players who could also have a fantastic season next year, who are having a fantastic season this year. That's Jack Grealish and Mason Mount.
Yeah.
Jack Grealish undoubtedly will sign for a new club. Whether he'll still have the same impact at that new club, going from being a big fish in a small pond, Aston Villa, to just being another fish in the ocean at somewhere like Man United or Spurs, But still, we don't know how he'll perform. He may stay at Villa for all we know. Mason Mount, I definitely think deserves a shout at being at substitute spot just for all what he's achieved this year with Chelsea.
No, I completely agree with the Mount shout. Grealish, I think he's a very good player, but less so because even when Man City played, he's a very good player. He's been very good for Aston Villa this season. But if you look at when Man City played Aston Villa in that League Cup final, Foden got man of the match. Grealish was almost out of the picture. And I think I'd put Foden ahead of Grealish just because of that fact.
Okay, okay.
But I think Mount's a very, very good shout. And if he continues to play next year,
which I mean, no doubt he will.
If he's starting most games, then it's between him and Foden, in my opinion, who gets the role, depending on who's playing, basically. And that's as simple as it is. Whoever's playing the most next year, because I think both players will develop, will get that substitute role. But I think there's one other player which we probably should mention as well, and has been an England stalwart in the last few years, and that's Dele Alli. He's almost gone at the picture in most people's thoughts, and his form is easy to forget. He's only 24 years old, and he's been at the Euros, he's been at World Cups, and there's not many players you can say that at his age as well as probably only Lampard you can say you can bet at this for a midfielder at his age, having 50 goals and 153 Premier League appearances. That's almost one goal every 3 Premier League games.
The guy's got mad stats, mate. The guy's got mad stats. He had them crazy 2 years, his first 2 years at Spurs, and then, his attitude sort of depleted a bit. His form went downhill for whatever reason, personal reasons. We don't know what happened, behind the scenes, but it did have a toll on his footballing abilities. I love watching Dele Alli. I think he's a fantastic player. He's definitely got the ability. It's just whether he decides to turn up and actually show it. And until
he has had a comeback under Mourinho.
Under Mourinho, he had a bit of a resurgence right at the start, didn't he? Then he had a bit of a blip, then come back again. Definitely if he carries on the form he did when Mourinho first started at Spurs, then mate, he could get in over Maddison. You never know. He's got that sort of talent.
Yeah, I completely agree. Say if Ali has a season like he did back in 2016-17 or 2015-16, where he's getting over 10 goals. I think one season he got 18 Premier League goals. I think that's 16-17. If he has a season like that and is influential as he was back then he probably should be, and he will be starting. Because of the start. And he has been part of the major advantage he has over the other candidates we're talking about. He's been part of the England setup since Southgate got in, starting almost every game. He started the 2018 World Cup almost every game. It wasn't probably his best tournament, but still started most of the games. He obviously got a goal against Sweden. Yeah, he got the second goal, didn't he? The header.
That's it, yeah.
And he's been almost England stalwart in those years, and I do think he has had a little resurgence under Mourinho. And if that does continue next year, then I don't think the other players will probably even get ahead of him. I don't think Maddison, Foden, or Grealish or Mount will start ahead of him, because if Kane's fit as well, Kane and Ali have a great partnership, and I think that will be a major advantage for Ali. But if he continues how he has been overall the last 2 years, then he probably won't even get in the squad. So it's all dependent on his form. And in my opinion, I'm looking at players who are currently if you look at the graph, they're currently going up and up and up. And that's Maddison, Foden, Mount. Grealish, I think, is going to be good, but I think Mount, Foden, and Maddison have a bit higher potential. And I think Maddison would be my starter. Then I'd either have Mount or Foden. And that's just, I couldn't really pick one of them at the moment because it's completely dependent on how
next season goes.
You could have a situation where Mount doesn't even play much because Loftus-Cheek, Jorginho, and Kante are playing every week. You could have a situation where Loftus-Cheek and Mount are playing next to each other all the time, and then you say, okay, that they have a great chemistry together, so they should be playing. So I think a lot depends on who's playing. So I think we're agreed on Maddison, and then should we leave it as Foden /
undecided? Mount? Yeah, undecided on Maddison or Mount, on Foden or Mount.
Yeah, and then say that's quite a hard one, that position, because obviously you had then Ali and Grealish as the outside positions. So imagine if Grealish goes to United and is like one of the best players at United.
Exactly, you just don't know. You just don't know what the future holds. We can come back to this. Hopefully in a year's time. Our plan is to come back to this podcast and check our predictions and see how right we was.
Yeah, but at the moment we've gone Maddison.
Yes, James
Yep.
Maddison gets that centre attacking mid spot.
Yep. But I do think it's also worth mentioning as well that when I was talking about Foden, if there is no, because if Foden does have a great season and is playing for Man City, so they win the league, if there's no international fixtures, it's going to be quite hard for him to start because he's never started a game for England, never been in the England squad.
No.
So
Yeah.
that goes against him as well. And I know Southgate seems very hesitant to start players who haven't been in the squad before. But I remember Maddison, it took him about 3 England squads to get an appearance, maybe. I remember everyone was calling for Maddison
Something.
to get an appearance for quite
That's
a while.
yeah.
He's only got 1 England appearance, believe it or not, but he's been in 3, 4, 5 England squads.
Yeah,
For
Mason
fixture
Mount,
rounds.
an argument for Mount is he's been in, I think he's played, 6 games, 7 games for England. Actually scored a goal as well. So that may get him in ahead of Foden.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we've got a really good midfield there.
Yeah,
really well balanced, I think.
Yep.
And I think now's the front three, where
Oof.
I think we might as well start with the player who's in form at the moment, the player who's absolutely dominating world football. We just got a hat-trick on the weekend.
You take it away, my friend. Yep.
He is a boy wonder. He made a decision back in the day when he was at Man City. Should I stay here and try and fight for a place with all these world superstars? I probably won't get many appearances. Or should I go to a team in Germany who are one of the best teams in the world, who will put me in the spotlight? They will test my skills. I will be put out there on the pitch, and if I'm good enough, I'll play. And what he has done is unbelievable. He's taken that risk. And you can just see what we're talking about with Phil Foden. If Phil Foden went to a different country and was given the opportunities, he'd probably definitely be starting for England because he would have had that development. Sancho is now in a position where he can say he's one of the best players in the world because of what he's doing. Look at the stat alone. He has more league goal involvements in the league this season. So he's got 33 league goal involvemements in the Bundesliga this season. And that 33 number is more than what Phil Foden has in league appearances in his whole career. Phil Foden's only got 32 league appearances in his whole career. Jadon Sancho's got more league goal involvements just for this season, which is a crazy stat. And Sancho's been breaking records left, right, and centre. Over the weekend, he got a hat-trick, his first ever hat-trick, and is now the youngest player in the Bundesliga to score 30 goals. And when you think about some of the players who've had in that league, to get that stat is absolutely unbelievable. I think he just broke Kai Havertz's record, so I think he'll be a bit annoyed about that. He didn't have it for very long. But his overall stats this season have been unreal in terms of he hasn't been starting every game also. He's got 27 games, 17 goals, 16 assists, and that's just the Bundesliga. And if you're talking all competition, 20 goals and 18 assists. And I don't think apart from Mbappe, there's not a better young player out there.
No, yeah, mate. I think Jadon Sancho was probably, when we were thinking about this Euro squad, was probably the name that first popped into your head as a guaranteed starter, Finch.
Yeah, I think for this year, it would have been, because what seems with Southgate, he's preferring to play. I know we'll come on to, like, it seemed that he was preferring a little bit more to play Kane, Sterling, and Rashford maybe as a front three, and Sancho's been on the bench a few of the games in recent England internationals. But so I still think he would have played, but maybe he would have been a bit tighter in terms of whether he would have definitely been starting. But I think next year with his development, he's only going to get better, and I don't think you've got to start next year in terms of his development. Whether he moves to United, whether he moves to a different club, maybe in a likely situation, it seems with clubs probably being more reluctant to spend in current times, staying at Dortmund, he's only going to get better. He'll probably, by this time next year, if he stays in the Bundesliga, will definitely be the best player in that league if he continues his development as he is. I think he will start. He could be our best player in that tournament. In my opinion, he will be our best player by that point, and will be one of our main hopes. Will be our poster boy, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that shout. He just oozes class, doesn't he? Just oozes class at such a young age as well, to decide not to play under Pep Guardiola, one of the greatest managers of all time, and just think I can do this better elsewhere. And he has done, and he's got nearly every big club in the world after his services.
Yeah, he made a great decision there. There's not many players.
Yeah.
If you look through history, there's very few players who've been willing to take the risk to move to a different club at a very young age and know they can develop better there. And when you look at the players who have done it, a lot of the time it works out. And this is the example I'm using because I think it's probably the most similar in terms of what happened. Is probably Sancho is probably the best English player in terms of young English player since since the player I'm going to be talking about, and that's Wayne Rooney. Because Wayne Rooney obviously left his boyhood club, Everton, when he was very young, to go for a move because he thought that could develop his career. He went to United, and
Yep.
boy, was he a boy wonder there. And he's probably the only player who's more of an English boy wonder than Sancho, because obviously what Rooney did in that Euro 2004 tournament and early on in his United days. And I think Sancho is probably, like I was saying, the best English player since Rooney in terms of being a young English player coming through. And his potential is stratospheric. Never used that word
Well,
before, but it is stratospheric because he could go anywhere. He could get the Ballon d'Or. He could be one of the first English player in modern times. Obviously, you had back in the day Bobby Charlton and can't remember, Tom Finney, I think maybe got the Ballon d'Or back in the day, but he could be the first English player in modern times to get the Ballon d'Or, because I think he's our most likely hope, and he does seem like he could really develop into one of the best, if not the best player in the world.
Yeah. Well,
I'm going to say it now.
first to win the Ballon d'Or since Michael Owen.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, I always forget Michael Owen.
Yeah, to be fair, that is a madness that Michael Owen won the Ballon d'Or. You forget how good Michael Owen actually was, back in his young day, as a youngster as well,
Yeah, I think you had generational English young talents. I think Owen was the generational English young talent at that point. Rooney was then as the next best generational English young talent. I think Foden could have been that if he went to a different club, like Sancho did. But Sancho's development's obviously taking on another level because of what the amount of playing time he's got. And I think Sancho is that generational talent for England at the moment.
Yeah, mate, Hunt, and there's a cracking shout. Substitute for Sancho. Are we in agreement on Callum Hudson-Odoi?
I think that is completely dependent on how much he plays next year. Like we said before, if he plays often, I would say yes, and performs, because he hasn't. Last season he was unbelievable when he was playing, but this season he hasn't, since he's come back from injury. I know it's mainly because of that injury. He hasn't been the same player, really, has he?
No, definitely not.
And I think it is completely dependent on how much he plays. If he plays, it seems like if Chelsea back what they're paying him each week, because they're giving this massive contract, they'll be playing him every week and allowing him to develop. So backed him into financially, so there's no reason why they won't back him on the pitch. So if he does play every week, as his contract would suggest they're going to, then I see no reason why he can't develop and get in the squad as well. Because the difference when we talked about before, like with our defence and wanting an experienced backup, is a lot of time with wingers, you actually want a young winger, a young hungry winger to beat players and do something fancy, do something incredible. Because a lot of the time, the younger players on the wings are the ones which have those magical moments. You look through history, like Gertz, I remember the World Cup in 2014. And in Spain, they're great teams. When Pedro was on the wing, he's very young at that point. So I do think Hudson-Odoi could be a good backup for Sancho. And I think the other wings are either between two players as well. But in my opinion, I'll let you go first before I put my opinion forward. Actually, thinking about, I said Sancho.
for left wing, yeah.
Yeah.
See, it's a tough one. I know probably the two players that you're on about. Starting off for me though, I feel he has to, really, just because of what he's overcome in England. Didn't have the best of times to start off with. Was under a lot of criticism daily, really, in the media. But he managed to brush all that off. Really added a lot of goals to his game. A lot of assists too. Plays with world-class players week in, week out, and still managed to be one of the best players on that pitch. I'm, of course, talking about Raheem Sterling.
Of course. I completely agree with you there, because what Sterling's overcome in terms of the critics, as I talked about before about Mings, having that mental resilience, Sterling's probably had even more mental resilience in terms of what he's had to overcome. He was probably one of the most hated players in English football at one point, because every person was going in on him saying he shouldn't be playing. I remember it was back in the 2018 World Cup, everyone was saying, or even 2016 as well, it was saying, Rashford should be starting ahead of Sterling. Sterling's rubbish. He's not doing this. He's not scoring. And what Sterling has done since then under Guardiola, he's come back, improved his finishing, and has become a world-class player. And
Exactly.
is one of the best wingers in the world at what he does. His stats are absolutely unbelievable, and that's the reason Sterling last year got the FWA Player of the Year, the Football Rights Player of the Year, and there's a reason for that. It's not just of what he's done off the pitch in terms of his charity work, his great work, his mental resilience come back from what he did, but it's what he's done on the pitch. 20 goals in 39 appearances last year, and a lot of those goals were so important. And he's come up with goals at crucial times for Man City, and that is the difference from what he did in previous years. He scored a lot of, people always say he scores a lot of tap-ins. He scores a lot of them because he gets in the right positions. His position is unbelievable.
Exactly.
And that's down to Guardiola. I think he always gets in goal-scoring positions, and that is a great habit, and that's the reason he scores goals. But he also scores goals at crucial times. I remember about 2 years ago, Man City, when they won the first league under Guardiola, he scored a goal, I think it was against Southampton, the last minute, a curling goal on the top right-hand corner. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
and
I remember that. I remember that one because I remember it being so similar to the one he scored against Bournemouth. You know, I don't know if you remember that, Finch. It was like second game of the season. The season that, you know, Man City won the league first time under Guardiola. 96th minute, who comes up with the goods? Raheem Sterling. You know.
Yeah, that's he's become known as getting you said, you about to say he delivers at the right time, and that's what he's got the reputation for.
Yeah, he's in the right, you know, and obviously the goal didn't stand, but who was the guy who scored the winner against Spurs in the Champions League quarterfinals?
Yep.
Raheem Sterling. Obviously, it didn't count.
Exactly what I was about to say. Exactly what I was about to say.
But he was in the right place at the right time. He done that fantastic skill to beat the defender. Fantastic finish. You know, unfortunately, it didn't count. But if it did, it'd be a goal we've been talking about for years to come because of how great the finish was, how great the play was, and how fantastic Raheem Sterling, you know, as a player who has overcome so much, has come on since his days at Liverpool and since his early days at Man City.
Yeah, and I was just about to talk about that example because I think it's a great example to talk about the goal against Tottenham because that shows how far it's come in the game and not shying away from the ball. And he took responsibility at that moment. And there's no bigger game in his career probably than that because of what Man City's history in the Champions League. Obviously, they have a history of going out. In terms of Champions League being the biggest club competition, Man City obviously going to win the league. And what Sterling did ahead of all the other Man City players, he took responsibility and had the composure at that moment to go past, do a little shimmy, go past defender, I can't remember which defender it was, and then slide it into the bottom corner with his wrong foot. And that shows finish at the highest level. And any other day without VAR, that would have stood. And there was nothing to do with Sterling that didn't stand. It showed his composure and how much has come on that goal. And I think in World Cups and Euros, you need a player who has the necessary composure to finish at the most crucial moments and get in the right places. And Sterling has that. Rashford's a very good player, I think, and will be the backup option. But he doesn't have the experience there and is not as reliable, in my opinion. And I don't think he'd suit the front three as much. I think Sterling you need a player who's composed in the wing a bit more. And having Rashford and Sancho as two very, very young players, Sterling's probably going to be in his prime next year. And Rashford's a very good option to bring on. And Rashford can play obviously up front and on the wing.
That's my thinking as well about Marcus Rashford. I honestly think Marcus Rashford's better as a striker.
Although he has played very well as left wing under Solskjaer. And he's got quite a few goals under Solskjaer.
Yeah, mate, 100%. But I think like Rashford, he definitely wouldn't get in ahead of Sterling. And the reason why I say he's a better striker, because he has more chance of getting in over my striker choice, which is Harry Kane.
Of course, captain Harry Kane.
Yeah, captain, fantastic. Honestly, on his day, best striker in the world, Harry Kane. He is formidable in front of goal. He's a natural born goal scorer. If anyone's going to break Alan Shearer's record of most Premier League goals, it is going to be him.
Yeah, I do think that this will be the advantage of England having extra year in that Kane will definitely be fit because I do think he is a key part of us doing anything in that tournament. And if he's fit, then it gives us a major advantage because, like you said, I don't think any other country has got as good striker as Kane on his day. Maybe Portugal, and that's about it if Ronaldo plays in that position.
Yeah.
But apart from Ronaldo, I don't see a team which has got a striker as good as Kane in terms of all-round play, and that's why he was the Golden Boot winner in the World Cup.
I mean, exactly. People say, oh, he only scored penalties, but hey, you still got to score the penalty.
Hmm. You know when people used to complain we didn't score enough in World Cups, and when we do, it's like, oh, the goals aren't good enough.
Yeah, you can't win. You can't win.
So
but
could look at Kane. Rooney is England's all-time goal scorer, absolutely incredible player over his career. But one thing he was never right with or never did as well as many would have hoped is at World Cups, and he only got one World Cup goal. Harry Kane got 6 World Cup goals in one tournament, and I know with Rooney a lot of that was down to the time of World Cups, like 2006. He was injured before. 2010 he wasn't fit before. 2014 he moved positions, so it was unlucky for Rooney in terms of stuff not working out. But the facts don't lie in terms of Kane actually getting the Golden Boot in that tournament. So I do think he should get more praise than he deserves. And even when he's injured, he gets a fair amount of goals. Like last year, 17 goals, 28 appearances. This year, 11 goals, 20 appearances in the league. He's a goal scoring machine, and
mate, he was born to score goals, Finch. Born to score goals. He is, and he's still 26 years old. He's still got a hefty career ahead of him.
No, I think he'll overtake Rooney, in my opinion, in terms of goals for England.
Yeah, what is he on now? Like 20, 26?
32.
Well, there we go. And Rooney, got 51?
Yeah.
So
53, sorry.
53. Okay, 53. If Kane keeps going the way it's going, he will break that that barrier, 100%.
Yeah.
Substitute for Harry Kane?
I'm gonna go with a player which I think is going to be the main outside shout for England going into next year's Euros, and I'll explain why.
Do you want me to say mine first, and you can finish on your...
I think I know who you're going to go for, and I think my explanation will lead on to what you're going to say, actually. So I think it will go quite well. So mine is Mason Greenwood, and I think he's had a bit of a breakthrough year this year. I think it would have been great to see him kick on straight away without this crisis, but obviously it's happened. I do think he'll get opportunities once Premier League resumes, because I think more rotation will happen. And the stats don't lie. In terms of, he's played a lot of games in the Europa League, the FA Cup, the League Cup, less in the Premier League, but in the extra competitions he's played more in. And out of the 36 appearances, had a lot of those as subs. He scored 12 goals, and that's unbelievable for his breakthrough for a year, considering over half those games he hasn't started. And to get a goal in a third, almost, I think about half the games have started, let's say, is a good stat. It's a great breakthrough season for himself, and he's broke records at a lot of levels in the youth levels for Man United. And it's a lot of people for Man United talking about how good Mason Greenwood is. That is one of the best generational talents. And in my opinion, I don't see I think Rashford is playing on the left wing for Man United at the moment. And I can't see Man United signing a striker in this window. They obviously got Ighalo, and I think Ighalo will be very good in providing support for United, but I think they're going to try and push Greenwood into being their main striker for years to come, because I think they've got a lot of hope on him. And what it seems by Solskjaer is he's placing a lot of hope in youth at United at the moment, and there's no, like saying with Lampard and Loftus-Cheek, there's no better player for Greenwood to learn off than Solskjaer in terms of his finishing. So I think this could really be his breakthrough year. And I think differences we talked about other youngsters having breakthrough years maybe next year. Greenwood's actually played a fair amount of times this year. He's played like 36 times in all competitions so far this year. So next year, if he starts in almost every game, it could really push him into that spot to back up Kane. I do think there's a clear path for Man United to start, because I do think if Man United are going to sign anyone this summer, it'll be Sancho for big money, a winger. I can't see him signing a striker. Because if you look at the strikers Man United have got, they've got Martial. So Martial, I think, will be the striker, and Green will be their striker next season. I think they'll be the main two strikers for them, whatever system they play. And if they don't sign Sancho, it'll be Martial on the other wing, and it will be Greenwood as the main striker, in my opinion. Yep. And the reason I'm saying that, I'm talking about the pathways, is because the other main player I think will be going for the spot is Tammy Abraham. And I think he's had an unbelievable season. But the reason I'm not picking him is because, in my opinion, Chelsea will sign a striker this summer. And I think that striker will have the starting spot for most of the season. I think Tammy Abraham will learn a lot from that striker and become better. But I don't think he'll start enough next season to warrant a place.
No, that's a really good shout, Finch. I really like that shout. I wasn't gonna say Abraham. I was gonna say Will Keane.
Ooh, you got me there. I think, I think he should be starting, not let alone now he's released from Ipswich. I think United are going to sign him up. Bring back Will Keane.
Oh my
That-
god, Will
their
Keane.
wonder boy is coming back.
Jesus Christ. Oh my god.
The,
But
the funny thing is
no,
that
but
I think Greenwood's actually broken. The weird thing is Greenwood. I think Will Keane had all these records for United youth
yeah.
clubs. I think it's Greenwood who broke Will Keane's records.
Oh damn, really?
Yeah, they couldn't have been that good records, man. But yeah,
There we go. I like that setup. They've with the way you described that with Greenwood being the main substitute, obviously. Um, Chelsea sign a striker for Tammy to learn off, whether it be Werner or Aubameyang, someone like that. So it makes a lot of sense that Greenwood would be our substitute striker.
yeah. I do think if it was this year, I think Abraham would have been the supporting
Yep.
striker, or
Or
Wilson
Danny
probably.
Ings.
Yeah, or Danny Ings or Wilson. I'd probably go with
Yeah.
Abraham, just the amount of games he's been playing and at the highest level. But I do think next season seems like Chelsea will try and bring in that striker, which will be to his disadvantage. So I think
Yeah.
we've agreed upon a lot of the shouts. I think it was the goalkeeper, which was the biggest debate, and that was straight off.
Yeah. That was so do you want to have a quick run through of the team, Finch?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, the goalkeeper was probably the biggest debate, and we eventually agreed on Nick Pope, and that's a surprise to a lot of people because a lot of people are just saying Dean Henderson or Pickford, but
Yeah.
people don't actually look at the stats in that. Nick Pope's got the highest amount of clean sheets in the best league in the world, so Pope will be our starting goalkeeper. At right back, we've got a generational talent in Trent Alexander-Arnold, the best right back there will be in that tournament by a country mile. Centre backs, we've got a solid pairing in Harry Maguire, Man United's captain, Joe Gomez, Champions League winner and future Premier League winner, very young
Future Liverpool
player
captain.
and future Liverpool captain potentially. Left back, Ben Chilwell. CDM, potentially the best player in the Premier League this year with the PFA, well, the favourite for the PFA Player of the Year, and that is Jordan Henderson. And just ahead of him, actually just alongside him, but he'll probably be playing just ahead of him a little bit, is Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Well, hopefully he comes back from injury and has a great year continuing what he did last season. I think that'd be an absolute great pairing. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is a box-to-box midfielder. So we have Henderson and Loftus-Cheek as our midfield two. And we have one player just ahead of them, a bit more of a license to interact with the front three, get forward, score goals, take all those set pieces. And I think when I said set pieces, that is why we're talking about James Maddison. He is a set piece specialist and potentially England's Cam for next year. In our opinion, he will be that centre front Cam, whatever you want to call it, position. He'll be there. And Foden was quite unlucky. Grealish was quite unlucky. Ali's quite unlucky. They could all make it depending on how often they play next year. Even Mason Mount can make it as well. So we've got four other players there we're talking about who could be in the picture, but we've gone with Maddison. That's probably the spot which is most open out of all the positions, but we actually agreed on Maddison. So we'll come back in a year and see if it was Maddison who kicked on next year and got that spot. And then we've got a front three which will be the best front three in world football. We're not talking about just the Euros, we're talking about the whole of world football. Jadon Sancho, an icon of the game, one of the best players there will be next year. He could even light up the stage and get the Ballon d'Or. Who knows? If he's the player of the tournament, Ballon d'Or is his name. So Jadon Sancho as our right winger. Our left winger is a player who's overcome more than any player in this team, and that is Raheem Sterling. The stage is set for him to shine. This year, I think he probably would have been England's best player in the tournament. Next year, he'll still be one of our best players, but he is ready to go, and I think him and Sancho on both wings will terrorise defences. And up front, Harry Kane, the World Cup Golden Boot winner, the current holder of that accolade. And no more can be said about Harry Kane. Absolutely unbelievable English striker, the best English striker, out and out English striker. I'm not calling Wayne Rooney an out and out English striker. He played different positions, best out and out English striker we've had since Shearer. And we've had a good number of great English strikers. So that is our team. And I think it is absolutely unbelievable. And if that doesn't win the Euros, Southgate, get out.
It's coming home.
It is coming home, and I back South. When I said Southgate get out, that was just a joke. I absolutely love Southgate, and I think it will be coming home at Wembley next year in front of how many fans I don't know because coronavirus, but it will be coming home. I can guarantee you that.
Bring it on. Let's have it.
So that is podcast number 7, and this podcast will be revisited all the time leading up to next year's Euros, and that is when we'll see this team win the biggest competition in European football. Over and out.
Thank you for watching.